Morning, my name is Tom Heiser. I served in Vietnam in 1971 and 1972 towards the end of the war. My job when I was over there, I was military intelligence. How many of you ever heard of Morse code? That's what I was. I was a Morse code intercept operator. What that means is I had to have 7 months of training to learn Morse code, all the letters, all the numbers, and all the punctuation marks at 20 words per minute. So it was kind of fast. But anyway, what our unit did was, in the United States, we were Army Security Agency, ASA, we were based out of Fort Devens, Massachusetts. However, ASA was not in Vietnam. They codenamed us radio research. So we weren't there, but we were there. Our unit, we had Morse code intercept operators, we had voice intercept operators, we had linguists that would break the codes, we had cryptologists that would break other codes. So we would listen to the bad guys tell the good guys what the bad guys were saying, where they were, where their ammunition was hidden, where their food was hidden, where they were going. And then we had planes that when we were listening to a transmission, we would talk to the pilots of the plane and say, okay, they're sending 4, 5, 6, break, 5, 7, 9, 2, 1, break. And then they would fly their planes in direction finding. So they would crisscross and tell us where the transmitter was at that time. Because usually where the transmitter was, that's where the unit was. So we were a military intelligence group. We all had top secret crypto clearances, which means we had to have the FBI do a background on us. I went to college for a year, and a college friend got a hold of me and said, what did you do? And the FBI asked me questions about you. I said, don't worry, I can't tell you because it's top secret. So ask us questions as we go through here. I can answer many questions for you on the intelligence side. However, some of the stuff is still classified after 40-some years. So there will be Mike Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Mike Sullivan. I'm a lifelong resident of Rapids. And when in 1970 they had a lottery for the draft. It's the first, I think maybe the only time we ever had it. It was like a big tumbler and your date of birth went in there. And if your date of birth came up, if you were real low on the lottery, you probably went to a tavern and got drunk because you were in the next day. But I was 120 and I thought I had a lot of time while I was drafted and in the Army by March 13th of that year. I was 19 years old when I entered. I had a wife and child at home. I went to the 25th Infantry Division. I was trained as a mortarman, but our colonel on the base decided mortars belong in a field with them, so we carried it with us as rear security for our unit of 90-some soldiers. We would get helicoptered out to a site, dropped off, and in 7 days, 6 or 7 days, we'd meet helicopters at another site and be helicoptered back to our base for 1 day and then go back out again after that. Halfway through my tour in about 1971, the beginning of 71, the 25th Division made a decision to go home, and it was called Vietnamization. It was when they were giving the bases over and the equipment over to the Vietnamese, and we did just that. We gave our bases over, we flew off in different directions. I had 6 months left in my tour. A tour is 365 days in a year, and the minute you get in that country, you start counting them down. Well, I had 6 months left, so I went to a Minh Long, which is way down south near the Cambodian border, and it's a helicopter base. They had over 100 helicopters on that base. So if they crash or went down because of hostile fire, we had to go get them out, get the pilots out, dead or alive. And beyond that, I served my full year there. I wasn't wounded. I didn't take any drugs. I'm very proud of that.
Good morning, my name is Tom Sox, president of our local chapter of Vietnam Veterans here Army in 1964. I always wanted to go to Europe. I had a few brothers in the service before me. Older brothers in the Second World War, brother was in the Korean War, and my other brother was in between Vietnam and Korea. And so I had to follow suit, and I joined the Army in 1964. Upon enlisting, I was guaranteed to go to Germany. Signed on the dotted line, and they guaranteed me Germany. Only problem is, didn't know how to spell Germany, so they sent me to Korea. While I was in Korea, I was right about the DMZ. Korea was considered a hardship to her. It was not a very pleasant place to be either. When I came back to the States, I was stationed at Fort Devens, Mass, up near Tomahawk. They had the ASA up there, Army Security Agency. When I was up there, I got there in December of '65. We were doing jungle training in the snow. We were getting prepared to go. I was with the 196th Light Infantry Brigade on the chart over there. It was a flaming rope. It was just a new brigade that just started out. And we didn't know for sure if we were going to go to San Domingo, because San Domingo was also a hot spot. 173rd Airborne went down to San Domingo, and there was a lot of fighting going on down there. And so we didn't know if we were going to go to San Domingo or Vietnam. So like I say, we're doing jungle training in snow. Well, I ended up getting orders shipped out to Fort Knox because of the fact that I just came from the hardship tour and they couldn't send me back over. And we were going to be deployed less than 6 months. So I got shipped out to Fort Knox. While at Fort Knox, I put in 2 requests to go to Vietnam. Being young and foolish, not knowing what was going on in Vietnam at the time. This is in, like I said, 66. And so finally, got to go to Vietnam. Upon getting in Vietnam, I had always been under the assumption that the war, you've got front lines. Second World War, you knew who the enemy were, you had front lines, you stand, shoot at them, and shoot at you. Well, that was not the case in Vietnam. Vietnam was a totally different, unconventional war. When I first got there, I get tired of hearing the same story, but the unit I was with, the 25th Division, we were in Cu Chi, 30 miles northwest of Saigon. We were block force between Cambodia and Saigon. It was only 60 miles from there. But anyway, there were planes bombing right outside our compound. And I asked one sergeant, are they practicing? And he sort of laughed at me and, no. Well, that was my first experience of what's really going on here. The enemy is right there, right at your door. You didn't know who the enemy was at that time. We're being down there in Cu Chi, Saigon area. We mainly ended up fighting the Viet Cong. The Fowler's wore these pretty black pajamas. That's the only way you could tell, and you couldn't tell, because farmers out in the field would be wearing the same thing. And so they would be farmers that day and shooting at us at night. So you never knew what to expect there. I was in an artillery unit, and being relatively safe, being an artillery unit, you were not right up with the battle at the time. As the war progressed, you never knew what was going to happen being an artillery unit. So I volunteered to call the infantry unit. I started out as an RTO, the radio telephone operator. I carried a radio on my back. That radio was a bullseye, big bullseye in the antenna, and it brings up pictures here. The enemy, that was one of the first things they wanted to take out. Your life expectancy was very short. You carried a radio. And that's, well, you can't really see it, but, well, that's the antenna back there. That antenna sticking up, here I am, come get me. And So that was one of the first things they want, the VC or enemy want to take out, shooting at that radio, because that was your lifeline, communicating with up above, where you get your support from. Well, while I was out with the infantry there, one of the things they teach you or try to get instilled in your mind, when you're going out on patrols, don't walk on dikes and race paddies. Don't walk on trails. They're going to be booby trapped. Well, on one particular day, I was behind a guy not too far in front of me there. And he was walking on the race paddy on the dike. He set off a booby trap and consequently I got wounded. One of the benefits we had was medevac, helicopters. From the time I got wounded until the time I was on the operating room, it was less than an hour. Helicopters come in, pick you up, and gone. Anybody ever hear the movie, watch the movie MASH, or hear the movie MASH, see the movie MASH? That's in Korea, that's where it started. Transporting wounded soldiers from the battlefield back to the hospitals. That saved a lot of lives. And it's still going on today, especially in Iraq and Iran, or Afghanistan. It's just amazing, even from Korea to what's going on now, medical treatment that is there right now. It saved countless lives, knowing what the results would be. And unfortunately, there was times where at night, where choppers couldn't come in and pick us up. Guys died because they couldn't get a medevac, depending on the fighting. Anybody relatives in Vietnam? Grandfather? Uncle?
Stepdad,
What's the name?
John Bristol.
John Criswell. Vietnam, the war, when it started out, the 1945, end of the Second World War, or during the Second World War, the Vietnamese were our allies. At that time, they were fighting the Japanese. They were helping us fight the Japanese. As time went on, they wanted to get the French out of after the war, Second World War. The French was pretty much ruling their country. Ho Chi Minh did not like that. Ho Chi Minh wanted his country ruled by his people. As time went on, 1954, Battle of Dien Bien Phu. That was a major defeat for the French. Dien Bien Phu was way up there. 54,000 French soldiers surrendered to the Vietnamese, ending the war with the French in Vietnam, and Vietnamese. Prior to that, they supposedly established the DMZ, 17th parallel, separating north from south. Unfortunately, the South Vietnamese or North Vietnamese did not agree with that. They wanted the whole country for themselves. In 1963, Gulf of Tonkin incident took place. We had boats out in the Gulf of Tonkin. There was a couple of Navy destroyers. Allegedly, they were torpedoed by North Vietnamese torpedo boats. Well, our president back then, Johnson, decided he's going to retaliate, so they declared war on North Vietnam. 1965, we started sending American troops to Vietnam. I believe it was 2 Marine divisions entered Vietnam, Da Nang, and I believe they both came into Da Nang. That was the start of the buildup of American force in Vietnam. There were a lot of big battles. Anybody ever see that movie with Mel Gibson, Your Soldiers, Once and Young? It was one of the last good movies of the Vietnam War. It was about the 1st Cavalry Division. It's the yellow patch with the black striking horse on it. Dai Duang Valley. That was one of the biggest, the first major encounters that we had with the North Vietnamese, hardcore North Vietnamese. A company, I believe it was Italian from the 1st Cav, ran into a division of the North Vietnamese. During that 4-day battle, we had lost over 200 some American soldiers that were killed and countless wounded. But that was one of the biggest battles at that time. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, at the same time, it might have been before that, the 173rd Airborne. This is one thing that I never heard about. 173rd Airborne likewise got into a big, major confrontation with the Viet Cong. Because the Viet Cong, it didn't look that, they're the peasants, as they, so they didn't get the glory, you know, I say that the 1st Cav did with fighting the North Vietnamese. Likewise, they lost, I forgot how many it was, a couple hundred soldiers that were killed, but that you didn't really hear about that much. And anyway, as time went on, like I said, I went out with the infantry there, and we would go different areas. Everybody know the pacified areas over here. Well, I guess it would be a little bit different. A pacified area was supposed to be a friendly area. There wasn't supposed to be any enemy there. And we'd go into different areas, villages, whatever. One particular, we called it Dodge City, because it was we went to the area there, we got shot at, but we could not shoot back. This went on for a couple days. We went, drove back through the area. Second day, same thing, we got shot at. Well, the 3rd day, we got permission from above that if you get shot at, you can return fire. Now you got a picture of this, 120 soldiers armed with M16 rifles, M60 machine guns, 12-gauge shotguns, and M79 grenade launchers. Come through this village again, get shot at. These guys just waiting and cut loose on anything and everything that moved in front of them. The only problem is nothing moved in front of them except one alleged VC. One person, thousands and thousands of rounds of ammo extended, killed one person. That was pretty much the norm for in Vietnam there. Due to the fact that the VC, North Vietnamese, their tunnel complexes were just you couldn't believe where we were at in Cu Chi area. Cu Chi was, I'll just say this little sign here was Wisconsin Rapids. The size of our base camp, 25th Division, was the size of this little thing here. This whole map was their area underneath us. We didn't know it when 25th came in. 25th was deployed to Vietnam in '66. So 3 stories underground, they had tunnels. These tunnels, well, this tunnel here, I went back to Vietnam in '99. I went to Cu Chi, and it's like a national park. And they'll take pay a couple bucks, you go in there, and that, inside that, it's like rock. And how they dug that stuff is just unreal. The ingenuity of it is these tunnels, they ran everywhere. Unfortunately, they had a lot of booby traps in there. You go into one and, well, this picture here, this was a main conference room. Now, this is underground. That room was probably 18 feet by 20 feet. It was a pretty good sized room. And again, that stuff is like digging in rock. It was laterite, I believe it was called. And they very ingenious. They would have a kitchen where they did their cooking. And 30, 40 feet out there, they would dig a hole, a tunnel. And that's where the smoke would come out. It didn't come out in and around their main area. So some of the things they did, you could not believe it. It was mind-boggling to see some of this stuff. But anybody have questions? I'll just keep rambling on here. One of the things that upset me was movie Platoon. Anybody ever see it? Oliver Stone. That movie came out in, I don't know when the movie came out. I left Vietnam in 1967, end of November, or end of 67, November. Oliver Stone, the director of that movie, was in the 25th Division, Mike and I were in. They showed, or depicted the soldiers as being a bunch of potheads. Everybody was smoking dope. Didn't happen. Not in 67. He showed a lot of different stuff in that movie. It was just so far, you couldn't, really upset me. My tour to Vietnam, from November of 66 to November 67, New Year's Eve of 1966, going into 67, was the first time I drank anything. The day before I came home, I drank again. Never drank my whole tour when I was in Vietnam. Because you didn't know what to expect. You'd be back in a base camp, get bored, you're drunk, you don't know what's happening. So, myself, I never did drink, and I say there was no drugs going on at the time. Tom can tell you a little bit more.
Like I said, I was there towards the end. Drugs were very, very, very prevalent. You could buy a vial of heroin that big for $5. 99 and 44 were 100% pure heroin. They knew the Americans had a hang up with drugs, so that was how we were killing ourselves from within. What they would do is they'd take the heroin, lace the marijuana and the hashish and the Thai sticks, and then people would roll a joint, now they're on heroin. When I left, one of the guys in our unit had lost his security clearance because he had failed the drug test. He had boils and cysts on and about his neck and shoulders that were draining all the time because of the heroin he was using. His body could not heal itself. His hair went from red, we called him pumpkin, to a dirty blonde. It was just what those drugs, like I said, 99, 44, 100% pure. He was doing 5 vials a day. Very prevalent, very scary. The building that we lived in, they called them a hooch. Next to our hooch in the name was a guard tower. You think we'd be pretty safe. We got a guy up there with a machine gun, with an M16, another guy with a grenade launcher. We got up one morning, there were 4 vials on the ground. There was no heroin all night. We couldn't even trust ourselves. That's how bad the drug situation was towards the end of the war.
Yeah, and I experienced the same thing. In the field in the 25th Division, I didn't see a lot of drugs. I mean, once in a while you'd see somebody smoking a joint or something. But that was about it. In the 1st Aviation Brigade, it was more of a rear type thing most of the time. And there you see a lot of drugs. I mean, out of 400 people, maybe 5 didn't use drugs, and I was probably one of the 5. I mean, I know I was. But yeah, it was bad. They got me hooked like a sit on heroin. I had 2 friends that drowned trying to get out of there and get drugs. Yeah, it was a very bad scene towards the end of the war.
A bunch of questions that were asked. I don't know which class or who sent them in. What were some of the difficulties you had to overcome during the service? Well, knowing I enlisted and volunteered to go to Vietnam, not knowing what to expect, I guess this to me, it just, it was a day-to-day, you didn't know what you're gonna be doing. Like I say, when I went out with the infantry, to say I enjoyed it, I don't know, just, it was a totally different experience. Difficulties, didn't really say we had difficulties, I don't know. What was the worst injury you seen? I told the other classes, we went out, we went out patrol one morning, and one of the guys that fired the law, the line tank weapon, 2 about that long, just stretch out about so long. It's used for knocking out bunkers, heavily fortified bunkers. It can knock out a tank. And it's very explosive, very powerful. The guy fired her law around and just sort of plopped out of the tube, didn't explode. Some big brass was involved in a lot of the investigation as to what caused that problem. So we left it there, but that night we picked it up and came when we got back to our base camp. And first platoon, Lieutenant Podusky, he was just a young second lieutenant. Well, we were all young. But he was the platoon leader for that first platoon. And I was probably 50 yards away at the time. And it was that night. And all of a sudden I heard a loud explosion. Not knowing what it was, I started yelling incoming because I thought we were getting boarded. And that was a common occurrence also. We never knew when that was going to happen. But as it turned out, I heard all these guys screaming and crying, and just, it was unreal. Ran over there, and it turned out there was 21 guys sitting in a circle. And apparently they were passing that round and round. And Lieutenant Podusky is the one that I found out, in fact, I just found out last year. It exploded right in front of him. Killed him and 2 other guys, and wounded 18 other guys in that circle. I ran over there and crawled around dark picking up body parts. I identified Lieutenant Podusky. He was gone, face, everything was gone. Yeah, on the lapel. Butter we call him. He was second lieutenant. Turned out last year, I belonged to the Wolfhound unit. We had a reunion. We've been doing this for years. Not like Tom, this is unit 2. Guys get together once a year or someplace. And last year we had a reunion out in Kansas City. And I wish I would have gotten to meet Lieutenant Podusky's daughter. He had never met her. She was 2 months old when we left her, went to Vietnam, but he never got to see her. Fortunately, we did. We sort of adopted her into our Wolfhounds. That young lady, and their father. That was one of the stupid experiences that happened. People never heard about back here in the States. His name was on the wall. Washington, D.C. A lot of experiences like that, similar to that, where individuals were killed. Stupid mistakes. We all combat and killed, that's understandable. We killed for some stupid reason because somebody wanted to make a name for themselves. That's the hard part to accept.
Question, anybody have any questions here before we read what somebody else wrote? Okay, the one, do you feel like you were ever mistreated upon returning from the war? No. I came back towards the end, things were still pretty hectic. I came to Chicago. Wisconsin is pretty laid back. I did not have a problem wearing my uniform until I got home. And then I just blended into society. The interesting thing about Vietnam veterans, we didn't go over as a big unit like they do now to Iraq and Afghanistan. We went over as individuals. So So when I got to the unit, I was the only one that day. Maybe the next day there'd be 2 people come in. So it was a different thing because they said we didn't go as a group. We did not come home as a group. We came home individually. And we just kind of kept to ourselves. We find other vets. We talked about our incidences, like what Tom had mentioned. We hear a lot about PTSD now, post-traumatic stress disorder, from a lot of troops. They're going through I did 1 tour a year, we did 1 year, we did 1 year. We have troops now that are going 3, 4, and 5 years of combat. That's an awful lot. That's why you have a lot of PTSD now, because of the horrific things they see. Tom could describe that incident that happened to him, how many years ago?
1966, 67.
I can tell you about incidents that occurred with me. Mike can tell you incidents like they happened yesterday. However, they were 45, 46 years ago. It's just something that's the way it is.
Yeah, one of the questions was, what is your best thing you did there? In the unit that I was with last, I had every 3rd day off because of the stress level on it. And you could go to town, frequent the bars, it was still somewhat safe. I chose to go to an orphanage that brought orphan kids from Vietnam back to the States here to be adopted. And I helped out there whenever I could. I took them goods from the base whenever I could buy them. Honey was the greatest asset, did the colds and stuff. And it was a relief from the war. The orphanage is now totally destroyed. They didn't want the orphanage there anymore. I looked it up on the internet. It was a pile of rocks. It was a beautiful place, built by the French. They destroyed it because they said they wanted to put a 4-star motel there. They never did. The nuns that were there were arrested for a short time and then let go and forced to go back to our countries.
Like I said earlier, I went back to Vietnam in 1999, and it is a beautiful country. It's unreal difference. My first tour was all expenses paid. Second tour I paid for it. But you go anywhere in the country, and anywhere I went, down around Saigon area between Cambodia and Vung Tau. Vung Tau was right on the coastline. It was a recreation center for back during the war. It was a secured area over there and relax. You guys had a chance to do it. But the whole area was just, no matter where I went, that southern part of Saigon area there, the people were sincerely friendly. Anywhere, like I say, you walk down the street, little kids, young kids, your age, standing on the street, their hacky sacks. Come. Want you to help play with them there. Well, in the villages, Papasan, come over to their house. The hooches, they had straw and mud hooches. And they had these big TVs. It was quite interesting. Anybody ever hear of the Tet Offensive? Well, that was another big 1968. Saigon River was the main channel that Viet Cong came in on that. And houseboats, a lot of houseboats. And I took a tour down the Saigon River. Papasan sitting there on their cell phones. So they're not back in the Stone Age. They are who they have. A lot of the Saigon area hotels now, they're beautiful places. They have culture there is really, it's unreal. I'll get into another thing. Anybody ever hear of Vang Pao? Okay. Well, this guy here, when I went back to Vietnam, he was my adversary. For all I know, we shot at each other. I don't know. But my tour guide introduced me to him. This was the Cu Chi area, that's where I was stationed. And we're standing in front of a war memorial for the Vietnamese. Inside that memorial, it was a pretty good sized room. And just beautiful architecture done in there. Ho Chi Minh he had good taste and said that. But they had a wall that would probably be, how big is this? There's 44,000 little brass plates on the wall. That was the soldiers that were killed in that area only. And that was just one small area of Vietnam. So you can just imagine throughout that whole country if they had those little nameplates for how many Vietnamese were killed. But anyway, Vung Pao, Vang Pao, he was a leader of the Lao vets, Laos. Without that guy, there would have been a lot more POWs or MIAs. They were such an asset to us, the soldiers over there. They had nothing to fight for, but yet he kept them going just for the honor of fighting for the Americans, helping the Americans. The Lao vets were, I don't know if anybody ever heard of the book Ravens? Prior to reading that book, quite a few years ago, when I was there, I never had any experience with the Lao vets much. They weren't in our area, not to my knowledge, so we never had any dealings with them. And when they started bringing them back in our country, I didn't know myself, being naive to what was going on, and not really realizing until after I read that book about the Lao vets, what accomplishment they had done, the sacrifices they had made, things that they had done for us. I had great respect for them and knowing what this guy had done. Last night we had a Vietnam Vets meeting. We honored two of the members, the state president from the Lao Vets, Wisconsin State Metro, and a district. Laura Kerr is his name. And we gave him a certificate of appreciation last night. And those guys were so honored to receive that. Back 4 years ago, anybody from here get to go up to Lincoln to see the traveling wall, Vietnam Wall this year? We had it at Ware Field 4 years ago. At that time is when we got the Lao vets involved with our organization. And since then, we've been trying to keep them all with them, keep them in with us. Like I say, I have great respect for the monks, believe me. Anything else?
Questions? Anything?
Could you just show a couple of those artifacts if you did?
Vietnamese were very ingenuity. They used everything. This is a sandal that the Vietnamese wore. It's a tire. Made out of, when we throw stuff away, they kept it. And they used it. The straps are from the tube of the tire. So they would use, like I say, we throw it away, they make something out of it.
That was a typical backpack. Back then, and well, you can barely see it, but our backpacks back then were the same, we had butt packs, they're just little. So actually, they carry more in there than we did in ours. But you have all the extra junk, few times you get pretty well loaded down. This was a typical North Vietnamese helmet. Plastic. Not going to protect you from nothing. In comparison, this was our helmet. There's a liner, which is plastic. That one there, that was our bathtub. We would, a lot of times, we would get washed up in. We do a lot of things with that helmet. But theirs, like I say, was just nothing. The Viet Cong, the musicians wearing black pajamas, would have their scarves. And so again, those pictures there. I'm not real sure. The women Vietcong were the blue and white one. And I'm not sure which one, the hardcore. These were the ones that were totally committed in fighting day and night. I'm not sure which one, which. One would wear this one would wear the Viet Cong, the farmer by day, fighter at night. They would wear, that's how they distinguished who was who in that also. The flags, like I say, we have, that was North Vietnamese flag. And that was their communist flag. They got that out of one of the tunnels.
And when we ate in Bush Run Field, this was what, a sea ration?
Sea ration.
This is the can opener. Most all Vietnam veterans kept theirs. This is just a memento. Mine still works. This is Mike's.
So, and last night, again.
That can was called P-38.
You would take the plastic explosives that you carry with it, the C4s, and you roll it into a ball about the size of a pea, put it on the ground and light it. Put that can over it and be hot in seconds. In seconds. And you didn't step on it afterwards or you'd lose your life. I mean, you would compress it. That was the only thing. You just light it and use it to cook on and let it burn out. One guy let it burn down to the size of the pencil lead, and the end of a lead pencil, and stepped on it and blew his shoe off. He had to bring a helicopter to bring him a pair of boots.
Tom talked about booby traps and stuff like that. What the Vietnamese would do, they do a punji pit. They dig a pit about that deep, and they cover it up. They would put what they call punji sticks. What those were bamboo sharpened to a point, and then they would dip them in human excrement, put them in there. GI would step on them, instant loss of leg because of the infection. Towards the end, our combat boots had a piece of steel across the sole so that we wouldn't get stepped on and end up getting infected.
Booby traps were one of their main, as far as killing us or injuring. It wasn't so much the idea, a lot of people don't know, that even during the Second World War, during the war, you're not intended to kill that guy. You want to wound that guy. By wounding that guy, you're going to have 2 or 3 other guys go out to help get him out of there, in which case you're sitting ducks too. So it wasn't really intended to kill the enemy, it was wound them. In which case, like I say, you get a chance to kill more.
Thank you. We know it's break time.